They are hundreds of young men from all across the country, their deaths labeled as accidental drownings. Now, these retired detectives say it's murder.
You're talking about almost 300 young men across the country that have been drugged, abducted, held for a period of time, murdered on land, and deposited in the bodies of water.
They say the deaths are all linked by one chilling clue: graffiti of a smiley face found nearby. Veteran NYPD detective Kevin Gannon believes it's the work of more than one killer.
What happened to Dakota James? It is a mystery that has haunted family and friends of the Duquesne University graduate student for 2 years. Officially, his death was ruled an accident, but there are now questions about whether he was killed by serial killers known as the Smiley Face Killers.
It has been just over 2 years since this security camera caught the last image of 23-year-old Dakota James alive.
So there are days you have to learn to put a smiling face on, because I've got other people in my life, you know, and I've got to be braver. Dakota would want me to be brave.
Pam James is Dakota's mom. But Dakota James didn't make it to that weekend. On January 25th, 2017, he left friends in this nightclub strip on Liberty Avenue and headed for home on the north side, walking through Katz Plaza, where this final picture was taken, and then down the alley towards Fort Duquesne Boulevard.
We can't tell whether he goes left or he goes right.
The official theory? He crossed Fort Duquesne Boulevard and went down the steps from the Clementi Bridge to urinate.
The evidence seems to indicate that he may have fallen into the water. In that time of year with the water temperatures, you only have a couple minutes is probably a long shot, but you don't have much time before you go into shock, and that's the end of that.
Ryan Wilsons was a 21-year-old Navy veteran who was studying finance. He mysteriously disappeared on New Year's Day, 2000. After 2 months, his body was found floating in a lake, 30.5 miles away from where he disappeared. In 2009, a 24-year-old by the name of William Hurley had a similar death, where his body was discovered in the Charles River in Boston. Nearby was a smiley face that read the word, "Hi." There have been over 100 cases of this, where most of them have been labeled accidental drownings. Dakota James, another victim, was found after calling his friend Shelley. James told Shelley where he was, which was somewhere in North Pittsburgh. Shelley got into the car and started driving, but after checking his location, she realized that James was nowhere near there at all. He was actually in South Pittsburgh. James kept saying over the phone to Shelley that he was cold, scared, and had no idea how he ended up alone. Shelley got to his location in 10 minutes to see James stumbling out of a hotel room and over to a black SUV. The SUV was turned the wrong way around and in the wrong lane. As James stumbled towards the SUV, Shelley wound down her window and screamed his name. James turned around towards Shelley and walked over to get in the car, while the SUV left into the night. James had gone to the bar at 7 p.m. with his co-workers, but couldn't remember anything after that. He showed no signs of being drunk though, so Shelley had to conclude he had been drugged and kidnapped. 5 weeks later, Dakota James disappeared. After a similar night at the bar with the same co-workers, and it was 40 days before his body was found in the Ohio River. The police labeled the case accidental drowning. In his bloodstream was GHB. His body seemed to be in a fine state for being in water for so long, apart from his neck, which showed evidence of strangulation. Police concluded he had been coming home from the bar, where he had fallen off into the river, but as we know, it wasn't accidental, and 11 smiley faces had been graffitied into that same bridge the same night. But there was also more proof. A transaction was made on his credit card 2 days after he had gone missing and fallen into the water. As police deemed he had been in the water for 40 days, it was unlikely, since his body, as I mentioned, was completely fine. This one case had been similar to hundreds of murders deemed accidental, drowning all across the United States. Together, 2 retired detectives have found similarities to all of these accidental drownings. The victims are almost always males, they're almost always white, they're almost always college-aged, they're athletic, intelligent, popular, they always disappear from bars and act drunk when they've only had a few drinks or none. Many show evidence of drugging, with 30 testing positive for GHB, and all of them were found dead in a body of water. There has always been a smiley face, usually at the spot they would have entered the water or where they were found, dead. There have been over 300 of these cases, showing just how many the smiley face murderers have done. The strange thing about all of this is that the murderers have no real reason for doing this, which is strange for murderers since they almost always have a motive. A commenter by the name of Faye June commented under one of these videos about the smiley face murderers. What if you're right though? What if it is a group of people drawn together by internet forums in order to kill Chads? Wasn't there a guy in Canada who mowed down a bunch of people in his car in order to decrease the population of good-looking guys, so he'd have more of a chance with women? Seems ridiculous, I know, but weirder things have happened. This is where it gets interesting. As Faye June said, weirder things have happened and the human population can be very messed up. And it wouldn't surprise me if the case were just people killing people to get rid of better looking people. As I and many others have stated, they only go after popular, athletic, college-aged kids. But this is where the theory kind of messes up. Since 1997, they've only been going after college kids. They haven't changed their age demographic, whereas if we assume the same people are still behind it, they are now 23 years older than when they started. This theory still stands if it were different killers. And by different, I mean the same ones only kill for a couple years before new ones take over. And we know this is a group behind this, since artists, even bad ones, have their own art style, and almost every smiley face is very different. Long eyes or dot eyes, a circle as the face, or just the face, and so on. For now, this is most we know about these murders, and as far as I know, they're still going on. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.